Well, in the clubhouse. Chris, how many clubhouses have you visited over the last 10 seasons? Care to mention?
I was going to say 56, because that's the number of National League clubs, Mark. But that probably I reckon about maybe 30 is probably a more regular, a more accurate estimate, I'd say, Mark.
Well, we're in the clubhouse and we're going to have a talk about Rugby Union. How's that sound?
This is my favourite clubhouse, Mark. So yeah, let's get into it.
Good. Well, I'm Seniormash and that's Chris Heal. Chris, you will see regularly, if you follow National League Rugby, the most wonderful National League Rugby review show. Tell me a little bit about what that all means, Chris. What is the National League Rugby review show?
So yeah, it's a bit of a look ahead really to the weekend's actions in National 1 and National 2. You know, obviously both of us have been invested in National League Rugby for a long time, Mark, and this year was kind of a bit of a change of tactic really. We want to try and get as many people down to the local rugby clubs, in particular National League rugby clubs, on a Saturday afternoon to support your local team, you know, get your money behind the bar and watch a brilliant standard of rugby as well. So all of the show is geared up to kind of reflecting on what's happened on the weekend before, but also looking ahead to some of the big games of the weekend. And it's been enjoyable this season, Mark. To be honest, I can't believe that, you know, we're sat here recording it on the Monday, what is it, the 10th of February today, and there's only a couple of months left in the season. So it's been enjoyable so far, but as I say, all trying to get more eyes on the game that we love.
Here. And just a montage on the screen, Chris, of, I guess, the last 16 years of putting these things together. You can see at the bottom, it's the England under-16s playing in France. And believe it or not, that's Henry Thomas, who was playing for Wales at tight head prop this weekend.
Brilliant.
But there's been a few others. A colleague of yours, Joe Harvey, and a couple of willing helpers in Jack and Frank Nixon.
Yeah, I remember that one with Joe, Mark. I want to say it was an England under-20s game.
Right.
It might be Bedford that. I might be completely wrong with Bedford fans who might be watching this, Mark. I mean, that's not right, but I'm pretty sure it was Max, myself and Joe went down for an England under-20 game. And I think kind of your likes of Josh Hodge was playing in that game. Obviously now at Exeter, I think he was at Newcastle Uni or Northumbria Uni at the time. So some of the stars of the game were on show that night. And myself and Joe we're at that game with Max, thinking I've actually got a coat on that one, Mark, so I dressed appropriately for once.
It must have been very, very cold.
Probably around about this time of the year, actually.
Yeah, undoubtedly. And Chris, talking Rugby Union, you've got a great set of teammates at Talking Rugby Union. You're forever uncovering fantastic young sports journalists. Tell me a little bit about how's that going?
Yeah, try and keep it brief, really, Mark. But you know, obviously, it's remarkably. You probably won't believe this, Mark. But it's probably about 10 years since I kind of came across, or you kind of came across me. I came across TRU when I was doing stuff for Stockport, and you know, next thing we know, we were on the road covering the Rugby World Cup here, weren't we, in 2015? But that seems a long time ago now, and the new generation's coming through. And you know, obviously, we had Joe Harvey, who was a fabulous servant for us, who was kind of the first of the journalists who were at university, if you like, to get in touch with us, and it's grown and grown from there. We've seen so many of our contributors go on to bigger and better things, whether that's with local press or national websites and stuff like that. And now we've still got a current, you know, crop of really young journalists as well as the experienced guys as well. You know, it's a pleasure to feature people like Gary and Francesco on the website with their unique take on the rugby world. But you've got dedicated journalists like Will, who's doing a sports journalism. Will Gutwell, who's doing a sports journalism degree at St Mary's Uni, who's very much part of the team now. You've got a number of other people who are at university as well who are wanting to contribute here, there, and everywhere just to get the name out there. And look, we've never band on drum of being a massive company Talking Rugby Union. We're not here to, you know, to give people millions of pounds. It's for the love of the game we do it, isn't it, Mark? And these journalists all love their rugby and they love just getting the name out there, and hopefully TRU continue to that. But it's a pleasure to kind of look at these guys who are at uni and wanting to get the work out there.
Great. Well, now to the real part of this, Chris. So we've got 10 minutes, no longer. We've got 10 minutes to talk about a week in rugby. So
I don't think that's ever happened, ever.
let's give it a go then. So that's the two of us, both at Sedgley Park. And you can tell it must have been very cold because you actually had a shirt on. So
I look miserable.
Yeah, I'm not
miserable.
sure. I think you were being somber because I think it was the opening of the David Smith Memorial Stand. So I think you were doing the right thing.
Yeah, opening day of the season, I think that was more, wasn't it, as well? So
yeah. So that's Sedgley Park, somewhere that Chris and I regularly visit their clubhouse. So more of that later. So the Six Nations, Chris, what do you make of it?
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously on the tweet you've got there in front of us, Mark, from TNT Sports, spectacular. I think, that England-France match, I think, had it all, didn't it, to begin with? If we want to start with England, I think it was an interesting first half where France kind of butchered a few chances, if you say, very unlike France, especially Antoine Dupont, who's had such a, an amazing last sort of 12 to 18 months, winning the gold at the Olympics, coming back to the France team. He is undoubtedly the best player in the world in my eyes at the moment, and to see him kind of cough up a chance in the first half, at that point you might have felt, is it going to be England's day? And they just stuck in the fight, didn't they? They rode the luck at times in that first half, and it's a bit of similarities to the Ireland game last year, where they had to be in the dogfight and got the job done when it matters most, as it says there, 20 seconds from full time. Elliot Daly cutting that fantastic line to get England a much needed win. So yeah, it was a great end to Saturday, but obviously Italy beating Wales at the start was another disappointing defeat for Wales, wasn't it, Mark?
It certainly was. Look, I thought Borthwick used the bench incredibly well. Finn Smith, okay, man of the match, get that, but my goodness, Tom Curry, what an engine! And this is a guy that's had a hip operation, and I just marvel at what he's able to do on a rugby pitch. And the addition of his brother, there'll have been people out there starting to write, why was Willis taken off and Ben Curry put on in his place? Well, I tell you, Ben Curry, he is some open side flanker. I was so impressed. And fair dues to Borthwick. He gets a lot of stick, but came out the right side, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we said it on TRU actually in the week, Mark, that it was a roll of the dice for him to kind of go with Finn Smith and tinker with the side the way he did. But I think you're right. I think he'll be the one who on Saturday evening would have been saying, "Look, I proved you all wrong," and that's only going to be a good thing, hopefully, for England to take forward.
And like that Italy-Wales game, I thought, interestingly, when he brought Wainwright and Dan Edwards on as replacements, the go forward in the Welsh team suddenly appeared from nowhere, and they looked like, if they'd have played like that for the previous 60 minutes, they could have actually done some damage. And when you've got a guy like Jack Morgan who's putting his body on the line every 30 seconds, come on, there's some people there that can make things happen for Wales. And the young guy, Blair Murray, I just thought was extravagant at fullback. I just love watching him. The fact they lost, it hurts. Losing hurts, but they're not short of some talented players.
Yeah, I think it's the cohesion, isn't it, Mark, that they need. They've been missing that for quite a while. Those interesting selections from Gatland, to leave a few names out. But as you say, they've got the players there. It's just about them putting together an 80-minute performance. And I think the way they start the game was would have been the most frustrating for the Welsh fans. The amount of penalties they were coughing up, they were just shooting themselves in the foot. And we saw Italy kind of claw the way back into it against Scotland in round one by inching the way, getting the penalties and keeping the scoreboard ticking over. But in the case of this game, it kind of took it away from Wales, really, and they were left with a bit of a hill to climb in that second half. And they showed promising signs, as you say, Mark, in the final quarter, didn't they? But it wasn't to be, and it's another disappointing afternoon for those Wales fans. But I believe a lot of them travelled over to Rome in the pouring rain. They still would have had a good time, I can imagine, but the result would be nice as well. But they'll be hoping for a little bit more success in the final 3 rounds.
Definitely. And then Sunday's game, Scotland, Ireland, and impressive performances from young Prendergast at fly half, I've got to say. Scotland a little unlucky having chosen a 6-2 bench to suddenly have Finn Russell and Darcy Graham off with head injuries, and hoping that both players get back on track and are fit and healthy. But I thought it was a pretty amazing performance from Ireland. I just thought they were superb from the get-go. And I don't, the scoreline, I actually think the scoreline's a lot closer than the game I watched.
Yeah, you've got to kind of hand it to Ireland, really, because there was a lot of talk before the start of the tournament with obviously Andy Farrell taking the hiatus because of the Lions commitments and Simon Easterby coming in. It was like, is much going to change? Are the players going to react the same? But, let's be honest, Simon Easterby's been around the Ireland setup. He's not going to rip it up and start again just because Andy Farrell's not there. And, Farrell will be on the other end of the phone if he needs anything. And I think, they got the job done against England. They were under pressure at times, but I think to go away to Murrayfield, a lot of people were talking about it. Big game for Ireland, big test. Scotland, can they sort of progress in this Six Nations? Can they really challenge for the title this year? And Ireland just absolutely said, no, we're not gonna change the way we're doing it. And they were really, really impressive. And arguably, it's one of the most impressive performances for quite a while from Ireland, really. So they'll take huge confidence with that. Obviously, France now in Dublin, I think it is going to be probably the big game. But England might have something to say about that after the weekend.
Oh, I think so. Well, it's not just the Six Nations that Talking Rugby Union covers. You're in a very fortunate position to cover multiple rugby across multiple generations, across multiple countries. And I think, Chris, that's what has given your expertise that great lift. And now everybody can see that expertise and that passion for the game when they look to National League Rugby. And, I look at the logo that you and I think Max Scoffich put together. Even the logo talks to me about how important this league is to you guys at Talking Rugby Union. Do you want to talk to that a little?
Yeah, it has been. It's been one of our staples, if you like, on Talking Rugby Union, Mark. Obviously, with Max Ashcroft obviously been playing at Sedgley Park. It's been National League Rugby, and obviously Max Scoff playing for Sedgley Park as well. It's been National League Rugby has been such a cornerstone of what we've done. And obviously I started out with Stockport, 10 years ago when they were in National 2 North, and it's kind of always been a passion of ours, hasn't it? And to work so closely with the National League Rugby Board over the last, it's going to be coming 9 years now. It's been great. We've really kind of, it's a fabric of what we do at TRU, and to be at the coalface of it every week, being able to produce what we do now with the preview show we touched on at the start. You get to hear from these clubs, these people who are, from a biased point of view, are at the real coalface of the game, really. We love watching the Six Nations and the Premiership, but these guys work incredibly hard for 12 months a year. It goes into a 26-game season, and it's always great each week to get a new person on, see how their club operates, what are they up to, and yeah, it only drives that passion further, I think, Mark.
And you mentioned Sedgley Park and Max Scoffich, Max Ashcroft playing there. And, I just always thank Sedgley Park for making me welcome. I'm sure they make you welcome, Chris. And a big shout out, I think, for what Vinnie Morley and I think it's Joe and Tom are doing with Sedge Media. I thought their live stream again at the weekend was very good, and I was very, very impressed that they're able to do this. So well done, Sedgley Park Tigers.
Yeah, echo that. Absolutely. Is that Max scoring in the corner, by the way, there, Mark?
Yeah, very rare.
They're fully rare. I think, is that not AI? Is that not AI or Photoshop by any chance?
Well, it wouldn't mean me doing Photoshop, but yeah, no, it could be. It could be Ashcroft imagined. Yes, I agree.
But yeah, no, just go back to your point there, Mark. No, credit to Vinny and the Sedge Media team. They do a fabulous job every single week. And, I've had phone calls off a couple of people going, oh, what's this that's actually part doing? So they're obviously making a bit of a, they seem to be making a bit of a wave in the National League rugby world. And, I think a lot of the visiting fans who can't travel from some of these far out clubs in National One, whether it's down south or as far as Plymouth, they appreciate the work that goes in for Vinny and by Vinny and Tom and Joe, as you say. I think Sedge might be playing Plymouth this weekend, so whether Vinny's hopping on the bus for that one, I'm not too sure, but they're doing a fabulous job, absolutely.
And the other side of the coin, Chris, has been your experience with Bucks Super League, and I know over the years you've really been one of the only journalists that's focused on Bucks Super League in the written format. I know there's folk out there making videos, but in the written form, you're the sort of go-to for what's going on. And I picked out these two tweets. One, because I still have that fond memory of your podcast with Charlie Beckett talking about Liverpool rather than talking about rugby. And also Rob Jones doing great things for rugby in Manchester and Lancashire. And hopefully these interactions that you have with university rugby continue into the future.
Yeah, alongside the National League stuff, Mark, it's again kind of a staple of TRU and a staple for me, really. Sort of the last, maybe this season, it's not been as prevalent due to kind of the commitments we have with the National League rugby, but it's still fabulous to get in touch with these universities. I know we've done stuff with Loughborough this year, and England students is something we also do, Mark. But going back to kind of the two tweets there, I know Charlie has kind of moved on from Loughborough fairly recently, but he will tell you absolutely that the Lightning programme there are so invested in what the girls are doing at Loughborough University, and they made the final last year. And I remember kind of organising the interview and listening to kind of the head coach, and I think we spoke to the captain, Ellen. They're so passionate about what's going on there. And when you have the players and the teams invested in university rugby, it makes it a lot better product to kind of report on, write on, go to these games, Mark. So, and it has grown and grown so much since we started reporting on it. Bucks Super Rugby itself is so big now because of the amount of players that have come out of that league and gone on to big things. It's always great to see Seb Negri tagging us in stuff on social media. Still, he's one of the originals, if you like. And it's not just Bucks Super Rugby, as you say, Mark. On the top of the game, you've got people like Rob Jones at Manchester Met, who's got a fabulous program there, and it will go unnoticed really without not blowing our own trumpet, without websites like ourselves promoting that level of rugby. He works so hard, and finally, and Rob won't mind me saying this, they managed to clinch the league title this year. So he said it at the start of the season, that was the aim, and they got the job done. So congratulations to MMU and to Rob on that one.
And I think, Chris, when you look at the Bucks Super Rugby and look at the men's teams, there's some cracking games coming up, like that Durham versus Exeter game, which will be tomorrow? No, Wednesday.
Wednesday, yeah.
And then the following fortnight, there's a Loughborough v Cardiff Met. There's still some great fixtures come up in the Bucks Super League.
It's that thing, Mark, because it's so cyclical. Every team can be at the peak one year and they might not be as good the next year, but 12 months later, they could be on an even playing field, if that makes any sense. And we see it all the time at Bucks Super Rugby. Loughborough are still the ones to beat this year. They've had a brilliant last few years, and Martin Webb-Bale's obviously there as the head coach, and he's going to be the English students boss in the summer, well, towards the summer as well, which is kind of a testament to the work he's been doing at Loughborough, really. But as you say, Exeter, Durham, always a great fixture. I know Exeter were at Sandy Park, weren't they, last week playing the University of Bath, and got a great crowd, and so much work goes into that. But so much work gone into Buck Super Rugby to make it the league that it is, and there's always big games everywhere you look each week. So this season's been no different. It's obviously going to come to a crescendo. I think it's there we go, Mark. If this by magic, a Rodney Parade in April.
Yes, and I picked out the women's fixtures as well, because I had the pleasure of helping you out a few years ago down at Worcester, and I held the camera very badly, but I held it, and I was so impressed by Nolly Waterman and what she was doing at Gloucester Hartpury, but also Edinburgh seemed to be a real beacon for women's rugby, which is great to see in a sort of nationalistic way for Scotland.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's been really cool actually to follow the journey of Edinburgh. Claire Cruikshank has been there for a number of years. I'm not quite sure off the top of my head, but she's spoken to Gary a lot of times for our website, Talking Rugby Union, Mark, and the development of that programme goes from strength to strength. And the amount of kind of Scottish internationals that have been part of the Edinburgh Uni programme over the last few years and involved in the Scottish development squads as well is testament to what the work they're doing there. And I think Edinburgh are actually in that final against Hartpury that year that you were at Worcester, Mark. So yeah, no, it's a great little balance they've got on the women's Buck Super Rugby with Hartpury, Exeter, Loughborough in there, but obviously Edinburgh as well. So no, it's a that league as well is going from strength to strength, and I think we've been definitely seeing that over the last couple of years also.
Grand. And I think in conclusion, Chris, I just wanted to talk about something that is important, I think, for all of us with rugby union, and that's the respect for what's going on. And I just picked out some examples because I know how involved you've been. And the first one is ex-Sedgley Park, Johnny Matthews, but the URC and Looseheads linking up, and I think that's an important development. But there you are, Chris, at the start of Looseheads back in September 2019, and then sort of 12 months later down at Gloucester with, surprisingly, Charlie Beckett again. But yeah, I think we've got plenty of exposure. You did a lot of work in the early days with Looseheads.
Yeah, I mean, I know Mark and Rob well, who were kind of the two of the three founders of it, and Dave, and it was kind of a COVID project, really, Mark. It was kind of we did a bit of a sort of trial run to maybe do a bit of a podcast and see, combine that with CRU, and we did so many during the COVID era over Zoom and stuff like that. But to see kind of the work they do and what they've done to get to where they are is so impressive. I know the amount of work Rob's been doing and Dave's been doing in particular is massive. I know they've linked up with the British and Irish Lions, as you say, Mark, that are in the United Rugby Championship stuff now. They've been a partner of the Premiership, speaking to all these fantastic people in Rugby Union. And it's an absolute credit to the work Looseheads does. And at the end of the day, it's still a very, very important message in not only sport, but in life in general. And they're tackling the stigma every day, which is great to see.
And I just wanted to sort of say how inspiring I found the whole Doddy Weir, Rod Burrow, Ed Slater focus on MND. And I watched the Gloucester game on TV a couple of weeks back and really couldn't quite believe how emotional I became watching that. And it's great to see rugby working closely with charities such as this. And I know there are many other charities, and this isn't a shout out for every charity, but just found this one inspirational. And going back to people that we've worked with, Mike Haley now, getting involved with Loose Heads, and Dave Flatman, who's always been a big supporter of Talking Rugby Union, knows Max Ashcroft from their days at Bath Rugby. Just picked this tweet up a couple of weeks ago about him heading north to do a ride for the Doddy charity. It really is, I think that word I use, respect, when you see current pros, past pros, fans. It's just a great thing about rugby, in my opinion, Chris.
Yeah, you've kind of linked it really well, Mark, to something I wrote last week for TRU with around Lymm Rugby Club, which is not too far away from me. They're a National League club, and that word respect, that rugby community is embodied by them at the moment. I think they're doing a cycle from Lymm to Limerick in memory of one of their past players, Liam O'Callaghan, who passed away from prostate cancer, I think, in January 2024. And they've got a number of their club members who are taking on this massive challenge and finishing by watching Munster against the Bulls at Thomond Park, because Liam was such a massive Munster fan. But Liam embodied everything that Lymm were about. He was the second all-time appearance maker for them. And he was Lymm through and through. And it goes, as I said there, it goes back to your point about community and respect. People are happy to jump on a bike and spend their Easter weekend putting their hard graft in to raise money for such an important cause, but do it for somebody they quite clearly hold such a special place in the heart. So it's things like this, things like the David Flatt stuff that you've got there on the screen, Mark, which sum up the sport.
And Chris, just finally, I saw this from Billy Connolly, and I think you always hear about how do you eat an elephant, or you do it in small bits. This just made me laugh. Sharks don't like the taste of human beings, but unfortunately, when they find that out, you're usually in 3 bits. And I got to say that, for me, it's just about making sure that we enjoy what we're doing, and we can have a laugh, as well as we can raise money, we can put the respect in, we can train hard, we can play hard, but we got to enjoy ourselves. And sometimes it's little snippets like that that bring smiles to people's faces. And Chris, you bring a hell of a lot to this world of rugby, and just wanted to say, well done.
No, I appreciate it, Mark. No, I do appreciate it, as always, with the National League stuff in particular, and TRU, it wouldn't happen without the support of you guys behind the scenes as well. And you, Max and Marks, and the whole team at TRU, the dedicated team of journalists we've got, and all the support from the National League guys as well. So yeah, no, it's all about. You're absolutely right, Mark. It's all about trying to enjoy what you do. Rugby's not an easy sport at times to enjoy, given sometimes there is a dark cloud that seemingly hangs over our sport most days of the week. But when you get scenes like you did at Twickenham from an England perspective, the Allianz on Saturday, and Jamie George, I don't know if you saw it, Mark, the heartwarming moment where he gave his shirt to somebody in the crowd. Those are the moments that kind of bring a smile to your face, and more of that, please, rather than negative stories about Rugby Union going forward.
Well, that's In the Clubhouse, and I've been Seniormash, and that's been Chris Heal, and we hope you've enjoyed it. And as ever, thanks to Talking Rugby Union and National League Rugby.